Alrighty, so we were group one and we were tasked with reading and analyzing chapter three, which was titled The Business Care for Reimagining Capitalism. So, in the intro, Henderson starts off immediately asking if companies can succeed while addressing global issues, which she immediately then answers with definitely, meaning that there is a good case for business to do good when looking at sustainability and reimagining capitalism. She then goes into talk about a little bit profit and purpose and how they go hand in hand together. This chapter helps to push the idea that reimagining capitalism helps both business and the community succeed. This also points out the fact that millennials won't work for them if companies don't make the correct steps to help the business and the community, and they need people to work for them. And the generations like millennials and Gen Z and so on aren't going to work for them if they don't make those moves. Moving into smart moves that companies should make, Henderson shows ideas of sustainability and how they can be good ideas for companies. Examples of the $84 billion company Solar Panel Energies and plant-based companies and how they are growing at a fast rate and helping to solve global sustainability issues as well as local global sustainability issues. And Henderson uses the idea of Eric Osmond, who is a CEO, and he pushes for recycling at all levels of his company. Henderson then goes into her three main takeaways from this chapter, which are reduce risk, increase demand, and cutting costs, and how all of these are going to drive innovation and save money when looking at the long term goal of a company. And then the last thing in the intro that Henderson goes over is a quote that money is the servant, not the master. This starts off the chapter, and it means that we should use money and not use it to control us. It's there to serve us and help us when we need it to grow on our sustainable and our green initiatives throughout the company. And we'll see more of that as the presentation goes on.
Okay, I'll be discussing the hunting for reasons to do the right thing section, where a man named Michael takes on a management position at a large-scale tea production company during a market crisis. So, on top of that, Michael is also now being faced with a large ethical issue, which is tea farming itself, which is a significantly unsustainable practice at the time around 2006. Farmers were cutting down forests to create more farmland while also using heavy pesticides and fertilizers that were destroying the soil, creating even more agricultural issues for those farmers. Additionally, many workers were being paid less than $1 a day, making these practices both environmentally and ethically concerning. So Michael needed to direct the company Unilever in a direction that could help positively change that supply chain operation while staying competitive in the tea bag market. And then we can go to the next slide. If the company continued to do business the same way, the long-term environmental and ethical issues would have been immense. Forests were being completely cleared, which led to erosion and loss of local biodiversity. And that constant use of chemicals made the land, especially the water and the soil, contaminated and unsafe. And additionally, those who did the most and the hardest work for the companies, like the tea plant pickers, were living in unsafe and unsanitary conditions, which include poor housing, no access to health care, and no way to educate their children. The author highlights that these issues are all intertwined when businesses are prioritizing these short-term profits and ignoring their responsibilities concerning environmental and ethical issues. They end up destroying the resources and workers that the company relies on. And then the next one. Um, the company committed to buying only sustainably grown tea during this time, which for the company ultimately meant retraining over 500,000 small farmers for their business. Farmers had to learn practices such as leaving bush cuttings on the soil instead of burning them, and how to compost organic waste, and also just how to use less chemicals on these tea plants. These changes help improve the soil quality, which in return boosted yield production by 5 to 15%, and increased the farmers' incomes by 10 to 15%. Unilever was also now able to pay better wages to their workers and invest in local communities by providing adequate housing and education. And overall, the brand became much stronger and built a lot of customer loyalty and trust, which ultimately reduces those long-term risks to their supply chain. Now we can go to the next one. And finally, Henderson, the author, indicates that doing the right thing doesn't always have to mean losing money or becoming less profitable. It's actually something that can make a company much stronger. And by focusing on sustainability, the company Unilever reduced their long-term supply chain risk by addressing the main issues within its operations. And this brings up questions such as if you guys knew a company was paying fair wages and making an effort to protect the environment, would you be willing to pay more for that product? And just how important are those sustainable certifications when you're purchasing your own?
Okay. My section focuses on Walmart's sustainability transformation, often summarized as Walmart's and the $20 billion bill. Walmart is the world's largest retailer, so its environmental impact was massive. What's important to understand is that Walmart didn't begin this journey to become green. They started because they saw an opportunity to operate more efficiently. What surprised them and the business world was that the sustainability ended up saving them around $20 billion while also improving their brand. The next slide. Um, Walmart was facing a lot of criticism for its environmental impact, things like waste, pollution, and carbon emissions linked to stores and supply chain. At the same time, rising energy and fuel costs were directly hurting their profits. Walmart also noticed shifting expectations from consumers, the government, and just certain groups who wanted large companies to take more responsibility. Seeing sustainability as not a charity or a PR stunt, but as a business strategy, they realized that they could reduce energy use, cut waste, and operate more efficiently. They could save billions and rebuild their public image. Next slide. To make this transformation real, Walmart introduced changes across operations, supply chains, and company mindset. Operationally, they worked to reduce energy use in stores and distribution centers and invested in more fuel-efficient trucking and lower transportation costs. They redesigned packaging to use fewer materials and create less waste. One of the most powerful steps was using their influence on suppliers. Walmart launched a sustainability index to track supplier performance and emissions on efficiency. They encourage and sometimes require suppliers to make greener choices because Walmart works with thousands of suppliers. Small improvements multiplied across the industry. This marked a major mindset shift. Sustainability became a source of innovation and cost savings, not an expense. Next slide. These efforts led to a huge payoff. Walmart saved about 20 billion across operations, reducing energy and improving logistics, cuts fuels and transportation costs, using less packaging and reducing waste, save money and decrease their environmental footprint. Beyond financial savings, Walmart earned stronger public trust and improved reputation. Employees also felt more positively about working for a company that was making real changes. The biggest impact was strategically, sustainability turned into a competitive advantage. Walmart proved that improving the environment can directly strengthen business and performance. Next slide. Oh, yep. Oh, yeah. This example perfectly reflects one of Rebecca Henderson's core arguments in Reimagining Capitalism, that doing what's right for society and the planet can align with doing what's right for your business. Walmart showed that sustainability can increase profitability and that large corporations have the power to create simple level change by influencing their supply chains. They demonstrated a new model of capitalism, one that connects purpose and profit instead of treating them as opposites. Overall, Walmart helped shift the narrative from sustainability being a financial burden to sustainability being a smart long-term business strategy.
Playing the odds in energy. This section shows how companies can reduce risk and find opportunity by preparing for climate change instead of ignoring it. The example used is CLP, which is a big Asian utility company that invested early in renewable energy. Next slide. The problem, new kind of risk. Many companies still underestimate how much climate change could cost them. Weather-related insurance losses have risen fivefold since the 1980s. It averages around $55 billion a year. Financial leaders like Mark Carney have warned that ignoring these risks could cause another financial crisis. Still, many firms and banks choose to ignore these risks. Next slide. CLP's strategy. Majority of CLP's power came from coal, while there was growing concern about pollution, flooding, and carbon emissions. CLP announced early goals for clean energy, 5% renewables by 2010 and 20% carbon-free by 2020. It was seen as unrealistic as renewables were more expensive at the time, but CLP saw big risks in relying on coal, both from government action and public backlash over pollution. Next slide. How CLP thought about the future. They mapped two major uncertainties. Would renewables become cheaper than fossil fuels? And would government put a price on carbon, such as taxes and regulations? As seen by the chart, CLP imagined four scenarios. When you add up the last three, there is a 51% chance that the world would change and only a 49% chance that it would stay the same. So CLP realized it was riskier to do nothing than to invest early in renewables. Next slide. The results and takeaways. CLP's early move paid off. By the 2010s, renewable costs dropped drastically. Wind was down by 77%, solar by 35%. Their strategy shows that sustainability isn't just good ethics, it's smart business planning for an uncertain future.
If it is so great, why isn't everyone doing it? Shared value is basically the idea that companies can make money and do good in the world at the same time. It's not just about donating money to charity or putting up a recycling bin. It's a smart business. Companies can grow while improving working conditions, helping communities, or reducing environmental impact. But not every company is doing it yet. And it's not about because it doesn't work. Shared value actually does work. The challenge is that it asks companies to think differently about how they operate. It's not about tackling a side project. It's about changing the way the company functions from top to bottom so that doing good and making money go hand in hand. The kind of change can feel uncomfortable. Leaders are usually focused on what already works, cutting costs, hitting targets, and running the systems they already know. So rethinking the whole thing takes time, creativity, and courage. But the companies that do get it get real benefits for both their businesses and the world around them. Nike is a good example of why shared value isn't always easy. In the early years, Phil Knight and his team were all about growth, marketing, and innovation. Nike was extremely successful, but serious labor issues were happening in their overseas factories. At first, the company didn't see it as their problem. And honestly, the risks weren't super obvious until the public started noticing. Then media, students, and activists began calling them out, and Nike couldn't ignore it anymore. Once the pressure hit, Nike had to step up. They improved transparency, updated supply chain standards, and started building a culture where ethics actually mattered. The main lesson here is that creating shared value isn't just about rules or programs, it's about mindset, culture, and how a company operates overall. Businesses have to look beyond short-term profits, notice hidden risks, and be willing to adjust. Nike's story shows the real change takes effort and patience, but when it works, it benefits the company, the reputation, and the world around it. And thank you. And this is our presentation.